This video we're going to go into making pizza, including the dough. In another video we made a fresh pizza sauce. Some Americans will use biscuits as a quick way, some to substitute for making pizza dough from scratch. Some Americans will use English muffins or a variety of other things, because honestly it is time consuming to make a pizza dough from scratch, and often in the United States there's pizza crust available at the grocery stores that's pre-baked. With yeast, it's important to start off with a right temperature range, and we're using active dry yeast, which is sold in a bottle in the United States. There's different ways to get equivalencies. I don't know how it's sold in other countries. The instructions for this yeast say to mix the yeast into a quarter cup of warm water between 110 and 115 degrees Fahrenheit, and make sure it's thoroughly mixed in. And then I'll add some sugar. Some packages might already have sugar, I don't know, but that's how this is. So now that I have it all mixed in, I'm going to have to wait about 5-10 minutes. If the yeast does its thing, then the foam should rise up to near the top of this container. So we'll see in 5-10 minutes. So my wife reminded me I should source the recipe. I got the pizza dough recipe from this book, copyright 1931, last printed 1977. It's been about 10 minutes, and the yeast is definitely active. It rose quite a bit. Now I'm at the recipe, which calls for 1 1/3 cups of warm water with the yeast. It needs to be a total of 1 1/3. There's a nice beer smell coming from here. Now, in practice, people who are used to making bread dough, I used to be at this level 20-30 years ago when I worked at pizza restaurants. They could just go by feel, get the water on your wrist, and if you cook it enough, that way you know how hot it should be, and you'll be able to get it to rise. But if you're not sure, then it's better to follow the instructions until you get used to it. The recipe calls for about 4 cups of flour, which I converted into grams, but climate conditions, humidity levels, a lot of things affect how much flour you're actually going to get to absorb into the liquid, and so it's just approximately 4 cups or whatever that comes out to grams. Mix the dry ingredients together. It's just salt and flour, and then before I forget, I need to have olive oil. It's 2 tablespoons for this. And then I can start mixing in the water with the yeast in it. I have this is about 3 cups of flour, and I'm expecting to add a little bit more flour to this, as it's important not to get the dough to be too dry. So that's why I do it this way, where I add the flour, most of the flour in, and then I check to see how much more flour I need. And it's very, like with biscuits, it's a very messy process. The pizza restaurant I worked at, they had a machine that mixed large amounts of flour and yeast together. Looks like maybe half a cup more. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to use the full 4 cups for this. Now, one difference between making biscuits and making a yeast bread dough is how much kneading you should do. For biscuits, you want to minimize this process of kneading, but that's not the case with bread dough. You're actually supposed to be kneading this for about 10 minutes. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to want to add any more flour. So this time, it looks like today we're using 3.5 cups of flour instead of 4 with the humidity levels the way they are right now. I'm trying to get all the flour that's on the side of the bowl. I might be able to add a little bit more, maybe another 1/4 cup of flour. Yeah, it's a little too sticky. So sprinkle a little more flour. So what we're going for is a slightly sticky or tacky feel and a smooth, elastic texture. I could sprinkle a little more on, but I'm getting close to where I want it to be. This texture here is right about where it should be, and so I'll make it into a ball and put it in here, and then this is an optional step. Just coat it with oil. That way the dough's surface doesn't dry out too much. And then at this point, some people would put damp cloth, but since I have it in a bowl still, and so I don't have to worry about the dough rising enough to stick to the cloth, I could just use a dry cloth. And so I have this covered, and I'm just going to set this off to the side and let it rise for almost 2 hours. It's been about an hour and a half, 2 hours. The dough has risen nicely, and so I'm going to collapse it and then peel it out and then put it back into a ball. And it has a nice elastic where it just pops back. So that's what we want to see. Roughly cut in half. This will give about 30 centimeters or 12-inch round pizzas. I forgot, important step to keep it from sticking. Put the flour down. And then form another ball. And at this point, you could use a rolling pin, but I was always told not to do that. But I was always told to just start in the middle and start pushing it out. It provides a uniform thickness this way. So I used to be able to do this kind of stuff, but there's a problem with that. it's not actually good for the pizza and will make an inferior pizza. The reason is it stretches out the middle. The outside, while it's spinning, it just stretches out the middle and it'll be really thin in the middle. So we were told not to do that. I'd get in trouble for doing it. If I wasn't caught by a manager, customer would complain sometimes because the middle was too thin. My pizza tin is about 12 inches or 30 centimeters. If your oven is cannot handle a 30 centimeter item, then the inside of it, then you could cut into 3 pieces and have smaller pizzas, I guess. I don't know if cornmeal is commonly available overseas. It's something that's commonly done in the US. That's probably too much. And that goes together. This will keep the pizza dough from sticking to the yeah, I put too much. It'll keep the pizza dough from sticking as much. But when you put it on too thick like this, it could get burned. If you don't have cornmeal, then you could also use olive oil. Just brush the inside with olive oil. Now something, and not everybody does this, but something that is done, a nemesis to all pizza lovers, are bubbles in the dough. The air can't escape, or whatever reason, the crust rises and it bubble. All the cheese and the toppings just slide off to the side, and people don't like that. So one way to deal with that, prevent bubbles from forming in the pizza, is just poke a bunch of holes in it like that. Some pizza places will actually have rollers with little rods, and that should prevent any bubbles from forming. Another thing to do, especially in this case where I made my own sauce, is to pour olive oil on it, and that'll prevent the sauce from making the dough soggy. Our sauce, now it's gotten some water forming on the top. I'll try to skim that off, and then I'll mix it again before I use it. Now this is really chunky. Some people don't like it when it's chunky like this, because you have big bites sometimes of tomato sauce, but other people like the texture. And you can see I'm out of practice with this. I used to be able to do this pretty quickly, and now I can't. This is probably a light amount of sauce here, but that's good for neither of my sons really like tomato sauce. Now for the cheese. We usually use 2 pounds of mozzarella on 4 large pizzas. In some countries that's probably getting pretty expensive. The nice thing about mozzarella, it's very popular on pizza in the United States, and apparently in Italy too. And there's good reason for it. It goes well with just about any topping. It doesn't have a flavor that will clash, whether it's seafood, vegetables, meat, other meats. It just goes well with everything. Also, it gives a nice stringy texture, creamy, stringy. That goes well with pizza. Cheddar is a bad choice. In small amounts, I've worked at a pizza place where they put cheddar on at the end for color. Puts a little bit of orange in there. But cheddar will, if you put cheddar in an oven for 20 minutes, it's going to get crispy, brown, and there's going to be grease everywhere. I love cheddar, but it's bad for pizzas. There are other cheeses, like one pizza chain in the United States uses Munster cheese. There's some people like provolone, but yeah, if you mix mozzarella, Munster, provolone, and some others, Havarti, then you could, if mozzarella is too expensive and you have a cheaper cheese, sometimes you could dilute the mozzarella and still get the good characteristics of it, as long as it doesn't clash with the flavors you're using. If you're going to cook at a lower temperature for a longer period of time, I'm cooking this one at 450 degrees Fahrenheit. I think that's around 230 Celsius. For about 20 minutes, 25 minutes up to. But if you cook at a lower temperature, which if you have to, you have to. I would recommend putting toppings like mushrooms and olives, especially mushrooms, onions if you're using it, below the cheese. Because the cheese, otherwise, if it's on the top and you're cooking it a long time, it's just going to dry out and get crispy. So, but we don't have to worry about that on this. This should be okay. I like to dice my toppings because my own issues. A lot of people don't. That's fine. And if you're going to use raw meat like this is sausage. Try to do flat chunks like that, because you want to make sure that it will cook fully and not have any, especially with sausage, you want it to be fully cooked. And just leave it on the top and try to have flat pieces spread around. Okay, so this is pretty much done and it's ready to be put in the oven. Some people like to put another layer of cheese on the top, but since there's raw meat on this, I strongly recommend against that. If it's just vegetables or pre-cooked meat, that's fine. Now we'll just put it in here. I'll check it out every once in a while, and it'll be about 20 minutes or so. We're going to check on the pizza that's baking. And what I do is usually take a spatula and lift up. And you look for, this is starting to get crispy, but I don't think it's completely cooked yet. I'm looking for a little bit more of a golden brown on the crust before I pull it out. This is cooked well enough. A nice golden brown crust. Crispy. The outside's browner than I usually like, so I turned down the oven from 450 to 425 Fahrenheit. And so just slide that spatula around, then slide it off, and then just to verify. It's crispy, so I'm going to have to break the crust, and it's a little bit soggy, but the dough's cooked, so that's good. And it's an ugly cut, I know, but it's crispy. I don't want to knock it off, so that's okay. There we go. This pizza's done. Yeah, it's a lot crispier than I like, so This is what 450 will get you. 230 Celsius will get you that level of crispiness and brownness on the mozzarella. If you don't want that, then 400, like probably 200 degrees Celsius, I think 400 is somewhere around there. You adjust the temperature range to suit your preference. And that's it.